My dear friends, flat earthers, brothers in Christ, and globe earthers who are friends of mine too. Almost 3 years ago, I made a video about emergency landings that proved that the earth is flat. Today, I'm presenting you guys 6 more emergency landings that prove earth is not a globe. We're gonna go through one by one and discuss, compare the flight path on the globe and on the flat earth map. At the end of this video, you should be able to conclude with your own reasons and senses which one makes more sense when we're talking about emergency landing, the flat earth or the globe earth. So with not much time to lose, let's go ahead and start with our first flight. We're going to be talking about China Airlines flight 006. I have here the article on the newspaper talking about this flight. It happened back in 1985. Plane miracle, how a flight plunged 30,000 feet in 3 minutes and landed with no death. So let's go ahead and watch this video. It's going to be basically talking about the flight itself, and then we're going to be talking about the difference that would make if comparing the globe and the flat earth. Okay, let's go ahead and start it right now.
February 19th, 1985. A China Airlines flight cruises across the Pacific to Los Angeles. At 39,000 feet, it's racing towards the dawn. By now, the plane is nearing the coast of California.
I've spent 11 hours and 30 minutes crossing the Pacific towards the US, and now they are approaching the coast of the US, ready to land in Los Angeles.
The plane runs into some stiff winds.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
We're experiencing some light air turbulence. Please fasten your seatbelts.
The autopilot is set to keep the plane flying at 290 miles an hour. But with the wind blowing hard, it's increasingly difficult to maintain the speed. For the crew, the bumpy ride suddenly gets more worrying.
Engine 4 flamed out.
The fourth engine stops working completely. As the crew tries to restart their engine, their plane slowly begins to roll to the right.
Dynasty 006, you're cleared to flight 240.
Just minutes after their fourth engine stops working, the China Airlines flight suddenly stalls and begins falling from the sky. After months of painstaking recreation, the NTSB investigators believe they understand what happened inside the cockpit of China Airlines Flight 006. With the exception of Engine 4, the flight data recorder indicates that the other 3 engines were working the entire flight.
Ignition negative!
If the engines had all failed, there would have been a host of other problems, such as cabin depressurization. But that didn't happen.
So look at San Francisco there and the airplane. Let's move the airplane here. Let's suppose that the plane was coming from Los Angeles from the west, as it was reported, and then at some point it would have to go northeast actually to reach San Francisco. If the plane was running low on fuel, how could the plane still have a long way to go towards San Francisco for an emergency landing, being so close to Los Angeles? It doesn't really make sense on the globe. It will only make sense when we compare on the flat Earth map. Okay, it would have to take more time for them to get San Francisco and more fuel, which means that on the globe, comparing this flight on the globe doesn't really make sense. Right? This is the exactly screenshot that we got from the report, San Francisco being north. And we know, according to the report, the plane was actually coming from the northwest of San Francisco. Actually, two clues that we need to look at when looking at this flight. One, that we will find on the report, on the official report, is that it says here the flight was coming from the northeast. It happened 300 nautical miles northwest of San Francisco, not northeast. I apologize. And another clue is that this flight, China Airlines Flight 006, was flying on the polar jet stream, okay? So we're going to compare this on the flat Earth. Okay, this is the flat Earth map represented here with the AE map. Now, let's look at this closely. The blue color here represents the cold regions. Right here in the middle, we have what we call the polar vortex. This is showing the oceans, okay, the currents, the ocean currents around the flat Earth, how it works. Going back here, I'm going to pause a little bit. The blue color in the middle represents the polar vortex, the cold region right here. The polar jet stream is right here. China Airlines 006 was flying right this line right here in the jet stream, polar jet stream, as the report says. When I was looking for more details on this flight, China Airlines 006, I also came across a thread and another report online where two theories were presented about this flight and why the fourth engine shut off during flight. So one of the theories is that the plane was flying through a volcanic region, which it is if you look on the flat Earth map. It encountered volcanic ashes as it was flying. As you see in the back of this picture, this airplane flying next to some smoke coming out of volcano. So the pilot flew the aircraft through a cloud of ash coming from a nearby volcano. The volcanic ashes can damage aircraft engines, clogging fuel and cooling systems, hampering pilot visibility and causing engine failure. This is one of the theories. Actually, there is a video about it, talking about that this is probably what happened to China Airlines 006. The other is also mentioned on the NTBS, the National Transportation Safety Board. The fourth engine was faulty. This problem had happened twice prior to this incident. There are records showing that 2 times during flights the fourth engine shut itself off, making some to believe that the engine was faulty and had nothing to do with the pilot flying over volcanic ashes. But there are reports that that's what it happened. He did fly over volcanic ashes, making the fourth engine to come to a stop during flight. Okay, guys, this is the globe. Right, I typed both cities there: Taipei, Taiwan, Los Angeles, California, and let's look at this on the globe. Both cities there, the flight crossing the Pacific Ocean. It even says the time, how many hours it would take it to cross across the Pacific. Now you see here the path, no volcanoes or anything like that could cause a problem to this airplane if the idea of growing over a volcano it was the truth. Okay, let's now compare the flat earth map with the globe. We have here Taiwan, represented by these blue dots. We have here Los Angeles, another blue dot, and San Francisco right here. Well, the plane was flying from Taiwan. It flew over 10 hours without any problem. This is the volcanic region where some believe the airplane encountered some volcanic ashes. All these regions are volcanic regions. And the problem started when this plane was around here. So let's make it really tiny and compare what happened here. Okay. Right here is when the airplane started having all these problems. Okay, in this region right here of the sea. It finally, when it regained control, when the captain regained control, he knew he wasn't gonna make it to LA because he was running out of fuel. If he decided to, land, lower the landing gear, everything. So they decided to land right here in San Francisco instead of flying a couple more hours until Los Angeles. Right? So this is what happened to this flight. Everything can be well explained on the flat earth map. On the other side, it gets really complicated to explain on the globe. This is a volcanic region right here. We have the polar vortex and the polar jet stream right here, where the plane we know was flying. Let's make this plane a little bit bigger. So we know the plane was flying in this region right here. This is the polar jet stream. Okay, so Taiwan, LA, San Francisco. Only possible on this flat earth map, explains the flight completely with no problems at all. Whereas on the globe, we would come across, a couple of questions. How come this flight was coming from this way? If it had to fly northeast to reach San Francisco? No. The flat earth map explains exactly what happened. Taiwan, volcanic region, and engine trouble right here, had to land in San Francisco because it couldn't make to Los Angeles. Now, all explained on the flat earth map. too complicated on the globe, lots of questions on the globe, no questions at all on the flat Earth map. Well, I made my points when comparing the globe and the flat Earth map. As you see here, Taiwan, Los Angeles, San Francisco in between. The flight, they had to land in San Francisco. They couldn't reach Los Angeles. They wouldn't have fuel. It makes perfect sense on the flat Earth map. Makes zero sense on the globe. Let's now go to our next flight. Let's talk about Lufthansa flight LH543 from Bogota to Frankfurt. Now, the original video on the news is in German, so I had to voice it over. I lowered the volume and I read from the article, "Baby born above the clouds, Lufthansa LH543. So let's now watch the video. As I told you, I had to voice it over because the original video, the news report, was in German. And then let's talk about comparing both flights, the globe and the flat Earth map, and you decide which one makes more sense. Let's go ahead and watch it. The original video is in German, so I'm going to be reading over the article since I had to lower the volume. It's a boy, Lufthansa announces after woman gives birth halfway across the Atlantic. A Lufthansa flight LH543 left Bogota for Germany, but when a would-be mother slipped into labor, the plane had to be diverted to Manchester. Luckily, the flight had 3 doctors on board, and with the help of them and other cabin crew members, the child was delivered mid-flight without any complications. A transatlantic flight en route Frankfurt left with 191 passengers and 13 cabin crew from the Colombia capital Bogota. However, when it made a stopover at Manchester Airport, it had 1 extra passenger. How? Well, a baby boy was born mid-air while the Lufthansa flight was flying over the Atlantic Ocean at an altitude of 39,000 feet. I've never experienced anything like that in my 37 years of professional experience. The entire crew did an extraordinary job. This was great teamwork with everyone doing their part, said Kurt Meyer, the captain of flight LH543. After landing, I immediately went to the mother and the newborn child to welcome him to the world. Aside from the birth of my own son, this was the most moving moment of my life, Meyer added. So this is Lufthansa flight LH543, July 26, 2017. Okay guys, I think no other flight has had more clues on the shape of our Earth than this one here. This is the Lufthansa LH543 from Bogota to Frankfurt. So I have typed here both cities, and let's look closely to this flight. As you see here, Bogota in South America to Frankfurt. This is the line on the globe. As you see here, it takes 11 hours and 10 minutes flying from Bogota to Frankfurt. And this is the path of the flight. So this baby was born during the flight, and the plane made an emergency landing. Now, if the baby, if she started labor right here in this region, he could easily have diverted the plane to Lisbon, Portugal, or even to Paris. He was flying over Paris before reaching Frankfurt. But this is where this plane made an emergency landing, in Manchester. Okay. Now, when we compare the path of this plane on the flat Earth map, you're going to see how it makes perfect sense stopping in Manchester. I'm not making things up. This is Google, okay? You type both cities and the flight times right here, gives you the path. There's nothing wrong with that if we are living truly on the globe. This is perfectly the path of this airplane. Okay, no, there is no mistake here. There is no questions to ask about it, just like every other flight. Now I'm going to draw this line on my map, on my globe, to show you guys, because normally I get messages from globe believers saying, "Oh, you didn't draw your line correctly." No, I'm gonna do it exactly like it shows here. Not gonna do anything different. Now let's compare this with the flat Earth map and see which one makes more sense. Let's now compare the flight Bogota to Frankfurt on the flat Earth map. This is the Gleason's map. I have identified the cities: Frankfurt, Germany. We have Bogota, Colombia. And in between we have Manchester, UK. You understand now why we defend as flat earthers that the flat Earth map is the true map of the Earth. The shape of the Earth is flat, and this represents pretty much what things are in reality. It's on the direct path of the two cities, Frankfurt, Bogota. You have Manchester right here in the middle. It would be way more distant if they had gone to Lisbon, as we compare on the globe, or Paris. Now Frankfurt, Bogota, and we have Manchester right on the way. And now we can understand why, if the baby was born maybe in this region right here, we can understand why he made an emergency landing in Manchester, because it was the city right along the way, the path of the flight from Bogota to Frankfurt. So folks, there you have it. This flight, believe it's one of the best of the 6 to show how the truth of our Earth can be represented on the flat Earth map. I understand some people don't agree exactly with this map. I believe it's a pretty good map when explaining flat emergency landings, as we're going to see in the next 4 flights. So folks, there you have it. Frankfurt, Bogota, Manchester. Which one makes more sense? It makes no sense on the globe. The plane could have diverted to Lisbon, Portugal, or could have landed in Paris, since it's on the way to Frankfurt. Instead, it stopped in Manchester. We presented, here's the flat Earth map. It makes more sense looking at the flat Earth map, not on the globe. Let's now move on to our next flight. Korea Airlines Flight 902. Now, this is a strange flight, and I will explain in the video why. There is an article on the Washington Post about this flight. The agony of Flight 902. It calls it a strange flight, because it really is. Now, if you believe the official reports, government official reports, you also have to believe that the 9/11 official report is 100% truth, or that everything that goes on in the war zone is completely true according to the military. But we know they are not. So I don't really buy into this official report, the way the plane was flying. Well, anyway, let's watch it. I want you to get your own conclusions, and I will present my case comparing both the globe and the flat Earth map, and you decide what you think. I have already my decision, of course, but I want you to know what you think. This was a very difficult flight for me to find out about. I had to go to the Korean Airlines website and search on the incidents. There is an audio, WikiLeaks audio, that talking about this flight, and that's the audio that I'm using for this video. Okay, so let's watch it.
On April 20, 1978, Soviet air defense shot down Korean Airlines Flight 902 near Murmansk, Soviet Union, after the civilian aircraft violated Soviet airspace and failed to respond to Soviet ground control and interceptors. Soviet air defense forces initially identified it as part of the U.S. Air Reconnaissance Force, which carried out thousands of flights along Soviet borders annually at the time. Captain Alexander Bosov, pilot of the Sukhoi Su-15AK, brought down Flight 902, saw Asian logogram characters on the tail of the Korean aircraft, and reported this to the ground control. Despite this, Vladimir Zarkov, commander of the 21st Soviet Air Defense Corps, ordered Bosov to take down the plane, as the plane failed to respond to repeated orders to land, and was approaching the Soviet border with Finland. The Su-15 opened fire, forcing the plane to descend, and killing 2 of the 109 passengers and crew members aboard Flight 902. The plane made an emergency landing on the frozen Korpijärvi Lake near the Finnish border. Flight 902 departed from Paris, France on a course to Seoul, South Korea. The plane's only scheduled stop was in Anchorage, Alaska, where it would refuel and proceed to Seoul, avoiding Soviet airspace. As the plane passed over Alert on Ellesmere Island, located about 800 kilometers from the North Pole, Flight Captain Kim Chang, Kentucky, suddenly changed his course and headed southeast toward Murmansk.
Among the earliest incidents of downed planes, Korean Air Flight 902 that was headed to Anchorage from Paris took a sharp detour while passing through the North Pole and headed southwest towards Murmansk on April 20th, 1978. In Soviet airspace, a Su-17 jet fired 2 missiles at the Boeing 707, causing it to emergency land on a frozen lake.
There is an article on the Washington Post about this flight. It calls it bizarre, strange, because it's really a strange flight. As you see here in the globe, and this is on Wikipedia, the plane left Paris. And it was actually north of Canada, had already traveled hundreds, if not, thousands of miles. And suddenly the pilot decided to return. The article says that the pilots got lost, the flight instrument wasn't working properly. But how come an experienced pilot could have made like a U-turn and return back and thinking that he was still going forward to his destination? That's a picture of the plane when it landed. And I read the article. I've read 2 articles about it. I found a lot of contradictions in both articles. One of the articles says that the plane had just left Finland's airspace, got into Soviet airspace when it was shut down. When we look at the flat Earth map, you're going to understand, how that makes sense. Because if you look at the globe, these are some pictures of the plane still, you see that the plane was, if it's supposed to have been going towards the Anchorage in Alaska, it was very close to Alaska when it decided to return. Now look at this picture here. You see the marks on the snow, and they say that this plane landed without lowering the landing gear, just barely. But you can see clearly there that there are some marks, and it's not from the engines, because the engine seems to be farther from each other, So the pictures released contradict some of the aspects of the story. Now let's look at something else here. This is the article on the Washington Post, Agony of Flight 902, April 24th, 1978. This is a very long article, but I highlighted this part here. The strange flight of the Korean Airlines plane began Thursday when it left Paris on its scheduled flights across the North Pole to Japan and South Korea. North of Canada, it veered off course and, unknown to the crew and passengers, flew toward the Soviet Union, entering the country in one of its most sensitive military regions. Now let's look at this on the globe first, and then we will compare with the flat Earth map. Here we have the flight Paris to Seoul. It would take 10 hours and 50 minutes. This is the path on the globe, according to Google. Leaving Paris, crossing this region here until Seoul. Now, Flight 902 is supposed to fly from Paris all the way to Alaska and then all the way to Seoul, like going around this way. The problem is, like, according to the audios and the files, when it was flying right here, north of Canada, it turned back. It's like a V, closed V sound to Soviet Union. The plane was shut down around this region right here. You have to remember that airspace includes like 20 miles, almost 20 miles on the sea. So according to the WikiLeaks audio file, the plane had crossed the border from Finland to the Soviet Union when it was shot at by the Air Force. Now, according to the map, like Soviet airspace, it starts here, actually not really over the land, but it starts here on the sea. And the plane seems to have then come from here. Not from here, but from here. So let's now compare this on the license map and see what conclusions we can get about this flight. This is the path of this flight on the flat Earth map. According to the report, the flight left Paris. Okay, left Paris, and it was flying here, very close to Canada, actually close to Alaska. And this pilot could have contacted air control, the towers here in Canada or even in Alaska or somewhere over Greenland to find out his position. The audio says that he suddenly turned back towards the Soviet Union, but he was flying almost like on a V shape, almost going back. If this pilot was going to stop in Alaska for refueling, it means that he was, low on fuel. How could he have made all this travel back to where he came from after had traveled almost 2/3 of the way? In my opinion, this is my conclusion after listening to the audios, watching a couple of videos. That's what I concluded. According to the audio, immediately after entering airspace, Soviet airspace from Finland, the plane was shot at. Okay, so this is the path of this flight. The New York Post says that he was flying from Paris to Seoul in Japan. I believe that immediately after entering Soviet airspace without having asked for permission, he was shot at. And he fell in this region here. It's called Korpiarvi Lake. Korpiarvi Lake. It's right here on the border of Finland and Soviet Union. Okay, so Finland's right here under this name, and when he crossed the border, he was shot at. Okay, if this pilot was coming, let's say from here, he would have to go over Swedish airspace, not really over Finland's airspace. If he was coming back from here, he would have to have crossed Swedish airspace. Okay, so this is my position. I defend the idea that this pilot was actually just flying straight from Paris to Seoul, and at the moment he crossed into the Soviet Union, he was shot at and had to make this emergency landing, and thus making it easily understood on the flat Earth map the path of this flight. He was probably flying straight from Paris to Seoul, and soon after he crossed the border from Finland to Soviet Union, just like according to the audio, he was shot at by Soviet pilots and the plane went down. I find extremely hard to understand why this flight was all the way here over Canada and went back this way towards the Soviet Union. If he was running low on fuel, because his stop in Anchorage would be a refueling stop, so he could fly to Seoul from here, okay, make this triangulation here. But the thing is, if he was running low of fuel, how can he decide to go back all the way from here to where he came from, right? He was a pilot, I believe an experienced pilot. He should have known that after flying 2/3 of the way, he shouldn't be going back to where he came from without having asked for some sort of assistance, guidance from ground control, either in Canada, US, Greenland, or Sweden. So the article at the the Washington Post calls it very strange. It's a strange flight, and I don't actually believe the official story. After coming to know the flat Earth, many of the stories don't add up, and they all make more sense when you look at the flat Earth map. So this one, it's up to you guys to decide what you think. In my opinion, this is what really happened. This pilot had crossed the border from Finland to Soviet Union. He was shot at, had to make an emergency landing in this region right here, instead of going ahead to go to Seoul, right? So I'll let you guys decide on this one. Okay, my friends, you have watched this video and my comments are in it. So what do you think? This flight on the flat Earth map, it's completely explainable, easily. Paris, you have Seoul, Korea, and the city, the lake where the airplane landed, right in between, on the border of Finland and the ex-Soviet Union. So you decided, the reports given by the Soviet authorities at the time, or Western media, but this flight, the city where he landed, the place where he landed, is right in between Paris and Seoul. Comparing on the flat Earth map, it really makes no sense, because this airplane could have reached out Canada and Norway, which was also along the way, and Sweden. And but when it says that it was shut down right after crossing the border, Finland to Soviet Union really makes sense only on the flat earth map. It doesn't really make sense on the globe. But you guys decide. Let's go ahead and watch our next video. Air France flights AF-116 Paris to Shanghai. One more time, I'm gonna this video you can also find reports like news reports online, and this one is only written, not really spoken, so I read it over. But you can find, especially on RT, because the region where it landed in Siberia is in Russia. So you will find in RT network, a TV station, but some other European news media have reported about these flights. Okay, so let's now watch Air France flight AF-116 Paris to Shanghai, emergency landing in Siberia. On Sunday, 282 passengers were on an Air France flight from Paris to Shanghai when it made an emergency landing. According to Business Insider via AFP, smoke and a weird smell filled the plane. Luckily, no one was injured when they landed in the Siberian city of Irkutsk. But it was freezing cold and none of the passengers were dressed for frigid weather. The temperature this week in Irkutsk has been around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Passengers had to wait 3 days for a new plane after the replacement plane had technical issues. They were under constant police presence as they did not have Russian visas. That's the Moscow Times. They finally departed on Wednesday morning in a third Air France plane. No word yet if the passengers will be compensated for the rough travel experience. Okay, here we have the globe again. 2 cities, Paris, France, Shanghai, China. As we see here, this is the path of this plane. 11 hours, 15 minutes of flight, leaving Paris, going to Shanghai in China. You see here the path of the airplane of this flight, where it will go over Ukraine, Uzbekistan, and parts of China. Now, the place where this plane landed is north over here, above Mongolia. When you look here, and according to this flight path, it's south of Russia. But the plane landed in Siberia. It's an emergency landing in Siberia. So let's now compare the flight path of this flight with the flat earth map, and let's see what conclusion we get. Here we have the path of this flight going from Paris to Shanghai in China on the flat earth map. You can see here the plane has to fly over Siberia, Russia, Siberia. And this is the city where it landed, Irkutsk, Siberia. You can't go wrong on this one. Paris, this blue dot right here. Shanghai, this blue dot. And Irkutsk right here along the way. That explains why this plane, Paris AF-116 Air France, had to land in Siberia because it's on the way leaving Paris to Shanghai in China. So one more time, makes sense on the flat earth map, but makes zero sense on the globe. Here we have it, Gleason's map, one more time, showing why we believe that the earth is flat, because when you connect the dots on the flat earth map, it makes more sense. When on the globe, stops, emergency lands like this make zero sense. You have here Paris, Shanghai, Irkutsk, Siberia, right along the way. Alright, my friends, you were able to watch this video and compare the globe and the flat earth map. As you see here, Paris Shanghai, China. You could Siberia right in between. There's no mistake there. Okay, it makes no sense on the globe. It makes perfect sense on the flat Earth map. It's up to you to decide what could be true or not. But one more time, I think the flat Earth map explains exactly the path of this flight and the place where it landed. It was on the path of on the flat Earth map. So it's up to you to decide. Let's move on to our next flight. I also have an article here talking about this was on the news not long ago. It happened 2018. American Airlines flight plans emergency landing in Calgary. Okay, it's American Airlines flight flying from Dallas to Beijing. They had to make an emergency landing in Calgary, Canada. So let's watch the video, and one more time you have to decide which one makes more sense. American Airlines AA263 Dallas to Beijing, China. Let's watch the video.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news from Washington. Good evening. We begin with breaking news from YYC, where an American Airlines flight was forced to make an emergency landing just about an hour ago. The plane was flying from Dallas to China when it had to be diverted. Blake Law is joining us now from the airport live. Blake, take us through what happened and led to this landing.
Sure, Scott. Well, we were able to witness it as it came down and landed at YYC. Pretty incredible to watch. There were a number of fire trucks and ambulances waiting for it on standby at the tarmac in case that landing went awry. Now, the reason why this plane is landing here in Calgary, as you mentioned, it was scheduled to fly from Dallas, Texas to China, obviously a long flight, but at some point during that journey, a passenger fell ill. So it was decided that the plane would make an emergency landing somewhere in Alberta. They were originally looking at touching down in Edmonton, but of course, but during the flight, they also realized that there was a mechanical issue with the flaps of the plane, which are used to slow down the aircraft as it makes its landing. So it was decided in flight that they would divert to Calgary instead, make use of the longer runway here. And as you can see from the video, they did make a safe landing, touching down just before 5 p.m., coming to a stop at the end of the tarmac, where a number of airport emergency vehicles rushed to its side. It stayed there for a few minutes before being taxied away to another location here at the airport. So as far as what's going to happen with the passengers, American Airlines officials confirmed to us that they would be spending the night here in our city before redeparting again tomorrow. Scott?
All right. Appreciate the update. Thanks so much, Blake.
All right, guys, next flight, Dallas to Beijing. American Airlines flights going from Dallas to Beijing. Emergency landing in Calgary, Canada. Okay, here's the path of this flight according to the Globe. 14 hours, 20 minutes, and this is the path. Now, I want to talk about, like, when you're flying, like, especially like when we fly from Japan to US, in front of you there is a screen, and that normally shows the airplane crossing the Pacific, right here. Several times we can see people post pictures online, and I'm gonna show in a couple minutes some of those pictures, people showing their path along this route right here. Okay, now this is what we have on the globe: Beijing to Dallas, 14 hours 20 minutes. I'm going to draw a line on my globe exactly like this. As you see here, parallel to equator. This is the path of the plane. This is a picture, just as I was telling you guys, of a flight going from Tokyo to San Francisco, actually going to Tokyo to Los Angeles. And in front of you, there is a screen on the front seat, but facing you there's a screen and shows you the flights crossing the Pacific. And you see this, this is one of the pictures. I'm gonna show you another one showing us the same thing, the path going in this case from Shanghai to Los Angeles. Right, this is what they make you believe, that you're flying a globe. So they give you these virtual images, not based on reality. Everything is done in a way that makes you think that you're flying a globe, when in fact those paths here are not real. They all fly according to the flat Earth map, not according to the globe. So it's like you are living in a simulation. Everything is simulated. You watch the TV, you see curves, the horizon curving, you see the curvature, you see the Earth spinning, you see space, you see NASA, you see all that stuff. In reality, you don't see those things. You don't see rockets leaving Earth. You don't see when the moment that the rockets leave the atmosphere and get into the vacuum or comes back. You don't see nothing like this. Okay, they just present some pictures, some images, and show you a virtual reality. It's not the reality. It's like a simulated reality, right? Now let's look on the flat Earth map and compare paths and see which one makes more sense, the globe or the flat Earth map. Okay guys, here you have Dallas, you have here Beijing, and right in between you have Calgary. As you saw on the report, the flight was supposed to stop in Edmonton, which is right here, also not so far, and they decided for mechanical reasons also divert and go to Calgary. It's on the path, on the way, going from Dallas, Texas to Beijing. And this is the path to the airplane right here. This is the airplane. Took off from Dallas. Was supposed to go all the way to Beijing, but had to make an emergency landing in Calgary, Canada. One more time, you see the path of this plane makes completely sense on the flat Earth map. It doesn't make much sense on the globe, because according to the globe, this plane should be flying over the Pacific. But according to the flat Earth map, the plane flew over, and all those flights, they fly over this region right here. So here you have Dallas, Beijing, and Calgary right here along the way in the middle. And this explains exactly why we believe emergency landings shed a big clue on the shape of the Earth, because normally those planes stop where they are not supposed to stop. It was supposed to be right here, somewhere on the Pacific, and according to the globe, of course, but looking at the flat Earth map, there you have it. There, now you know why this plane landed in Calgary, Canada, because it's on the path of the flight flying from Dallas to Beijing. Okay, my friends, now you have watched the video where I compare both the globe and the flat Earth map. As you see here, Dallas, Beijing, and Calgary right on the way. It's clear. Okay, this flight was it makes sense only on the flat Earth map. Doesn't really make much sense if you use the globe. Okay, so let's move on to our last flight. Alright guys, the last video that we will be talking about is the Korean Airlines KE-38 Chicago Seoul. Okay, this flight, this emergency landing happened in July of 2013, not too long ago. Here's the newspaper article. One more time, I had to go to the company's website to find it. You don't really find it easily, but I'm giving you all the details if you want to research yourself. Now, the number of the flights and the date, everything is going to be in the video, and you decide which one makes more sense. All right, this emergency landing took place in a city in Russia called Anadyr, Russia. All right. So let's watch this video and you guys can compare. I could not find a video or like a news report on this flight. This flight actually wasn't an old flight like the other ones. It happened in 2013. I found it when I went to the Korean Airlines website and I searched the incidents and I was able to find this flight. As you see here on the globe, that's the route that this flight would have to take, flying from Seoul to Chicago or from Chicago to Seoul. This is what Google gives us on the globe. That's the route and the time. This flight would take, several hours to get there. And this is the same route on the flat earth map. You see a straight line from Seoul to Chicago, flying over parts of Russia and Canada. And that explains why this emergency landing took place in this town in Russia called Anadyr. This is the model of the airplane. It's supposed to be a Boeing 777-300. And that's Chicago flights KE38, as I have there, Korean Airlines, the KE38. And it happened on July 2nd, 2013. Now, I did not find any news talking about this emergency landing. I'm not really sure why, but I did search in several websites, several search engines, and I could not really find any video talking about this flight. I have also notes like some of the links that I had saved over the years, so I could in the future talk about emergency landings. They turn out to be dead links now. The flights are not there anymore. So I'm not sure why this is going on, whether they are just not making this stuff public or if it's not really that important to make it to the news. But anyway, it was hard kind of to find this one. I had to go to the Korean Airlines website and search all the incidents, and I was able to find about this flight here. Comparing again on the globe, we will be going over talking about how this flight would be if we were on the globe compared to the flat earth map represented here by the Gleason's map. I think it's a pretty reliable map when we are comparing routes, airplane routes over the Earth. As I pointed out earlier, when you're flying to Asia from North America and you are on your seat in the airplane, this is what you're going to see on the screen in front of you. They will show you the map and the airplane crossing the Pacific, right? And this is another one, same thing going towards Taipei. You see here that shows the airplane flying really close to Hawaii, right? Honolulu, which on the globe is like in the middle of the Pacific. And here going to Australia, he definitely flew over Hawaii somewhere here. Okay, but this is what you see, but is it what is really happening? This is the route of this airplane. 14 hours flight, about 119,000 yens, about $1,100. And Seoul, Korea, Chicago. Okay, here's the globe, the equator, right here. And the flights leaving from Chicago to Seoul. This is what we have on the globe. Now, let's now compare to the flat earth map. And there you have, folks. Seoul, Korea, Chicago, Illinois, Anadyr, Russia, right here. Okay, it was the closest airport probably from flying on this route from Seoul to Korea, from Chicago to Seoul, Korea, on the flat Earth map. It's right here. Okay, he was definitely the nearest airport, or because some of the airports are too small for big airplanes. Definitely, this is the one he found coming from here, having problems. It's landed in Anadyr, Russia. Right, totally, like if you compare to the globe, completely different. This is the flight route of this plane, Korean Airlines KE-38 from Chicago to Seoul, and they had an emergency landing in Anadyr, Russia. I don't know why. It was really hard to find anything like news reports about this flight, but there you have it. It happened in 2013. You can research and find out more details about this flight. I have talked about 6 emergency landings, 6 more emergency landings that prove Earth is not a globe. There you have 6 flights listed, and people need to understand, like, if we really live on a globe, no matter where you are, you should be at the highest point of the globe. Just like as we see here in this animation. You see some folks like this guy in light blue. He is higher than the other 2 on his right and left. Same thing, the person in light pink. Same thing for this person, the orange person there. So no matter where you are on the globe, you should be at the highest point. Let's say you're in New York City. You should be higher than the people in Connecticut or down to New Jersey. Same thing if you are in Tennessee, you should be higher than the people down in Alabama or north in Ohio. So no matter where you are on the map, you should always be looking, tip your head down the higher you go, because you are at the highest point. Same thing if you fly, like let's say on a balloon, a hot air balloon, as you see in the image on the left side, you should not be able to see the horizon. You should only be able to look down. The higher you look down, and the more you look, the higher you go, the more you have to tilt your head down to look at the horizon. Okay, but since we are on a flat plane, you have to see that the horizon rises to the eye level. Doesn't matter how high you go. If you fly 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet, the horizon should go where you are. And I believe Eric Dubé put it really nicely when he said,
but what we do know is that the Earth and the water is completely flat, for as far as we can see and as far as we've measured, and the horizon is completely flat as far up as we go. All amateur rockets and all amateur balloons sent up over 20 miles, as high as they can go, the horizon is flat all the way around, and it rises to the camera all the way up. It rises to the level of the camera. Now, this is totally impossible on a ball. No matter how big the ball was, as you rise up, you have to look down to see the curvature, look down to see the horizon. But what actually happens if you go up in a hot air balloon, the horizon rises right on up with you, the whole way up. Just keeps on coming up at eye level as high as you're going to go. That's just impossible on a ball. If you think about it, if you're on a ball and you're in a hot air balloon or an airplane, you should not be able to see out your window, straight out your window, the horizon. You should have to look down, further and further down, the higher you ascend to be able to see that horizon. But you'll never look down to the horizon on the Earth. It will always rise up to your level.
we're going to see here how they show us the Mercator map or the globe when measuring distance, but they really mean the distance on a flat Earth map. I do want to thank Immune to BS for actually making this video. He hasn't commented on it, he just put it out, so I'm commenting on his video. So as you see here, the Mercator's map, it's displayed on Google. You see all the countries in the north, how big they are on the Mercator, because when this map was designed, it was basically to please the Europeans. You know how the northern countries would be bigger, and you see the size of Greenland, how big it is, almost half of Africa. You know, North America, Canada, Russia, you know, these giant countries. But the point is, when they measure from, let's say, from north to south, it's a straight line. Okay, it's a straight line from north to south, or on the equator from side to side, let's say from east to west or from west to east. It's always a straight line, right? But you will see when we compare to other places like that, it starts curving. So why does it start curving? Why does the measuring line curve when not on the equator or longitudinal lines? Well, the answer is simple. Because when they are measuring, they are not really measuring on the globe. They are measuring on the straight line. And then they wrap the flat Earth map on a globe to pretend that we live on the globe. So they wrap this flat Earth map around a ball and gives us, like, they call it great circles, or, you know, but the truth is, if you look at the flat Earth map, you see their flights, or most of the flights, they go straight. They only kind of go off their route when they have some like bad weather ahead of them, or like a volcano. Again, as you see here in the US, measuring from north to south, straight line, from east to west, it starts curving. Okay, that is not on the equator anymore, so you see the curve. The longer it goes, the bigger the curve, because this is actually measured on the flat Earth map. So if you look at the flat Earth map, all those places where he's pointing, it would have to be a straight line. Look at Hawaii, where it's positioned, looking at the flat Earth map. It's not really like when you look on the globe, like towards the south. You know, if you look on the flat Earth map, it's more like to the north. Let's see, now he's going to be measuring distance between Miami, Florida, and a city in China. Just look at the arc. Measuring distance from Miami, Florida to Dagon, China. Look at this line, how crazy it is. Because it's supposed to be a wrapping around a globe. Okay? Why? I mean, you know, like, it just place these two cities on the flat Earth map, you're going to see a straight line. Just like that. See, he's using the Gleason's map now. And that's the line between the two cities, Miami, Florida, and Dagon, China. So they show you this, they show you the Mercator map, but they really measure the distance on the flat Earth map. Now, we have all these people supposedly in space inside the ISS taking pictures, filming. Why don't they show us the image they take? Like, we should be able to be seeing people on the side of the globe, like this there, like tanks or airplanes flying in all directions, cities bent. See this guy also taking pictures there. We should be able to see the images, all right, of cities and rivers and oceans, boats crossing the equator, and airplanes going, you know, around the globe. Over the poles. See there the image, those people in Maracanã, Rio de Janeiro. Where are the images from ISS showing actually people sideways on the globe, people playing soccer sideways, or swimming, you know, upside down, like that. Cities like that big city there should be Rio de Janeiro, we don't see those images. They can't produce them because the ISS is fake. So I hope that this video, these 6 emergency landings, can open your eyes so you can see the true shape of the Earth, which is not what we think it is.
Are you the pilot? Oh, okay. Am I allowed to say hi? Hey, I just want to say thanks for the smooth flight.
Alright.
I did have one question. Is there like a specific angle of downward tilt you have to fly at to
3 degrees.
3 degrees for the curvature of the Earth?
Oh, for the Earth?
Because
No, we just fly over the troposphere.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have to keep like kind of going down because?
No, we actually have to nose up. It flies. Yeah.
Really? Because I was reading some stuff on the flat Earth that made a lot of sense. Have you looked into it?
Which one? Sorry.
I was reading a lot of stuff on the flat Earth.
Okay, yeah. True.
It's true?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
All
Hey,
right.
God bless, brother.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
Hey Kevin, I got a quick question for you. When you were up really high, what's the furthest that you've been able to see, like as far as a city or mountain range or anything that you could recognize after you've been up there for a while?
100 miles?
Oh yeah? Yeah.
Maybe?
Wow.
Like, I mean, it has to be something pretty distinguishable, like mountains.
Yeah.
So, like, you could probably see the Rockies from Kansas.
Wow.
But nearing the border.
The Rockies from Kansas, that seems like more than 100 miles.
Well, nearing the border from Kansas into or Nebraska. The very western edge of it, but while you're still in it, if it's a clear day, but if it's smoky or hazy, obviously we can't see much, but it's not that easy to see with the naked eye. Yeah, unless it's like a very distinguishing feature, you know? Or a coastline with lights at night.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Up to 100 miles.
Yeah, about that, I'd say.
And let's see, I was told that the flights, you might not know this because you don't program them, but the flight simulators are programmed for a flat surface that you're flying over. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but the visuals do look pretty flat. Yeah.
Have you noticed that it looks the same when you get up in the sky?
Yeah, they do that because it's actually kind of like pilots typically don't get motion sickness, but if there's ever going to be a time that we get motion sickness, it's in the simulator. Because of the visuals.
Yeah.
Because the visuals are still kind of a video game and computer-like, so they're not necessarily exactly, lining up with what you're feeling, sensory-wise. And so since the visuals are artificial and the simulator is mimicking real motion, it kind of messes us up. So you can't have the visuals. I mean, if they improve, that would be great, but they are what they are, even in the most advanced simulators, because we have some of the most advanced simulators and they're still kind of like,
yeah. How have they taught you guys to account for the ground moving underneath you when the plane's coming in at, from different directions? Like if
in the real plane?
Well, if the Earth is moving from side to side, but you happen to be landing on a strip going north.
But the wind is going like east to west?
Well, not the wind, the movement of the ground underneath you.
The ground isn't moving that much when you're traveling at the speed of, we landed about 143 knots, so that's quite fast. So, the movement of the Earth it's not negligible. It's basically standing still as compared to our motion at that moment.
That's your experience?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they tell us, that at least in the U.S., the ground's moving at about 700 miles an hour left to right. And I was thinking that's kind of odd if you're landing going north, or moving in the north direction.
The ground looks to us like it's standing still.
Yeah, not an issue, huh?
Yeah, no.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Hello, mate, how are you?
Yeah, good.
I'm a fellow, Casey Josh, I'm a fellow just PPL pilot here.
Cool. Yeah, nice.
I've got a couple of serious questions to ask you.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there's a big time. curvature.
Curvature?
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't allow for curvature, do we?
For anything, not for you usually. Yeah.
No, we're round. We're a disc, aren't we? Round and flat.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hey, look, honestly, quite seriously,
Yeah.
we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay guys, I'm closing this video. I hope you all are okay, doing fine, both flat earthers or globe earthers. I hope you guys are doing fine. I wish you all a good and happy 2019. I wish that the Lord may bless you and keep you safe. I have been really busy, and I do have plans to go to New Zealand on the Flat Earth conference they have there. I want to meet some friends that I have made online over the years, over 3 years, okay? I don't even know much about the speakers. I don't know much. Actually, I haven't looked at that because I have just been communicating with friends from there that we've been talking about meeting up, I don't know much about the speakers. I don't know much, but I do want to meet some friends that I've made online. I know 75% of them are Christians, so it'll be a great time to get together. So this is all for today. I wish you the best. God bless you, you and your families. See you next time. Bye-bye.